in 2012, I got a chance to meet Sam, who at the time was he wasn't employed yet, but he was what was your title? He was an intern. Yes. And so, now Sam is all the way where he is now. But I just wanted to say, when I met him, I saw something in him that I knew that could go far. And so while it had nothing to do with me, I was part of the oxygen that fanned the embers that were already burning within him. And so with the privilege of Mary giving me the opportunity to take him under my wing, I did that. Like I said, the purpose was already in him, and his personal journey that he had experienced of being years incarcerated himself and then getting out and wanting to do something, he was already gung-ho and ready to go. Anybody that knows Sam knows that he's gung-ho and ready to go. And so I thought, let me kind of help him direct where it is that he wants to go. It had nothing to do with me. It was where he wanted to go, and I just wanted to be a part of that. His mom, his sisters, and his daughter, those were his why. So as I trained Sam, but he calls it mentoring, as I trained Sam, I encouraged him in every way to see the person that was on the other side of the desk, because he had one time been on the other side of the desk. And so I also wanted him to hear them and to see them, because with that genuine ability to do that, then the beneficiaries of what we were doing would feel like now they've gotten to a place where they're not just being singled out and talked down to, they were being seen and heard. And so it's encouraging for me to hear today the participants saying that same thing, because that's what Friends Outside stands for. And I'm so glad to be a part of that. So in his training, I was constantly saying to him, listen, Sam, you need to have your eyes and ears open and your mouth closed. And he was like, what? I was like, eyes and ears open and your mouth closed. But that was not by any means to muffle his voice, but it was to teach him so that he could learn everything: personalities, situations, circumstances, what he needed to do to be of service to others. And so I wanted him just to know how equally it was important to do that. And not only that, but with your eyes and ears open and your mouth closed, you could learn the scope of what it was you were tasked to do. So you weren't running off in one direction. You needed to know your scope of work. Everything else, I used to tell him, was gravy. So I encouraged him to be an example, to serve, because that's what it was. It was service to others with passion, because that's all I knew to give him. And I said, if you do that, if you serve people with passion, they will follow. They will follow in what it is that you're trying to instill upon them. That's what we do. That's what everyone here in this room does. And I'm most appreciative of that. That's what Mary does. We serve with passion, and we become an example for others to be able to move forward. So I'm glad that Sam was a great learner. I'm glad that he was a great listener most of the time. He looked at, but most important that I saw, and I just continued to fan those ambers, was Sam looked at those who were aligned with his dream and where he wanted to go, and he imitated that and was able to elevate. And so with that, he's now the recipient of this prestigious SAMMIE Award. And I'd like all of you to stand and give Sam a round of applause for what he started and what's going to continue to be built. Sam, I'm proud to present you the SAMMIE Award.
Okay, give me a minute to compose myself. So this is going to be a little bit interactive. I'm going to ask you for about 5 to 7 minutes of your time. First, I want to just tell you where my journey began before I ever came to Friends Outside. So I grew up not far from here in South Central LA. As a teenager, I was immersed in the gang culture when LA was considered the gang capital of the nation, the murder capital of the nation, and the crap capital of the nation. By the time I was 16, I had been shot twice. I'd been stabbed, and my mother's house had been shot up. And I was deeply immersed in the gang culture. By the time I was 18, I was sentenced to life in prison for a crime that I committed in the furtherance of the gang that I was involved with. I took a life, sadly. A month after my arrest, my daughter was born. I didn't know she would be the reason that I would want to change my life. So I went away to prison, and the first place I ever held my daughter was in a Soledad's prison visiting room. And I got to know my daughter in other prison visiting rooms. We would color, we would play checkers. Around 7 years into my sentence, she came to visit. Normally I would pop out the back door, and she'd run to me, and I would hold her and hug her. On this particular day, I had gotten in some trouble, and so I was in what you call administrative segregation behind a wall and a plexiglass, chained up and shackled. My daughter scanned the visiting room, and when she saw me, she had this look of curiosity expressing, why is he back there? And so she starts to walk across the visiting room. When she climbs up on the little benches, she sees the chains. And I could see the look of curiosity change to one of fear. And she picked up the phone, and she said, "Daddy, why are you back there, and why can't I hug you?" And all I could tell her was Daddy got in some trouble. It was the truth, but it was not the full truth. Daddy had continued to go down the path of gangs and drugs and those things in prison and just wasn't thinking right. And she looked at me, 7 years old, no judgment, and said, "Could you not get in trouble so next time I come back I could hug you?" And it just shook me to my core. My mom, who was sitting next to her, took the phone and said, "You understand that everything you do, good or bad, affects the people that love you the most." And all I could do was nod. I didn't change overnight, but it planted a seed that made me want to change. Fast forward 24 years of incarceration, 9 parole board hearings, and I was granted release January 12, 2012. Every place I went to in LA, I talked about wanting to give back to my community, wanting to help. And I met this guy named Carl Jones, who still works in Pasadena. And he called me one day and he said, "Could you come to FETC?" And I'm like, "Where's that at?" He says, "On Lake, I'll send you the address." He sends me the address, and I meet a lady named Diane Russell and Sarah Mendoza. And they interviewed me. I gave them my resume, and they said, "So you were really in prison for 24 years?" This was only maybe 2 months after I had been released. I said, "Yes, ma'am." And Sarah says, "Don't call me ma'am." She says, "Okay, you have a pretty good resume here." She said, "I can get you a job right now today. You'll start tomorrow in the city, public works, benefits, or I can get you an interview with the executive director of Friends Outside." I said, "Well, what does Friends Outside do?" They say they help people like you find jobs and other things. I said, "I want the interview." She said, "Are you sure? This is a guaranteed job over here. You have to interview with Mary Weaver, and she's tough." I said, "I want the interview." I interviewed with Mary, and I was given the opportunity for internship. This is the interactive part. What is the most important part of a house? What? My foundation was built at Friends Outside. When I came in, and Monica told me, we were in a little church in Pasadena, and I sat at a desk, and I started telling Monica all the things that I wanted to do, and she's like, She said, "Listen, keep your ears open and your mouth closed and your eyes open." And I kind of like looked at her like, wait a minute. And she said, "I promise you, you will learn." And so I went from there and I listened to her. And I want to share with you some of the other seeds that happened, because from there I went to full-time as a case manager, helping people find jobs, get enrolled in school, truck driving license. Like we had a Department of Labor grant. And I want to share 2 stories that I was just sitting here thinking about. One of the gentlemen who was referred to us while he was in Donovan prison serving a life sentence, a gentleman by the name of Adrian Vasquez. He's not here, but he's an assistant program officer at the Disney Foundation. His foundation was built at Friends Outside. The second person, Harvey Knight, who came to the graduation after he went through the program, who initially drove trucks, then he went to Volunteers America, and then, I'll admit, I stole him. He's now Associate Director of Member Services at ARC. his foundation was built here at Friends Outside. When we talk about those seeds, those are only two. Our goal was to enroll 420. We exceeded our enrollment, and so there are seeds, and this is 10 years ago. And look at where these gentlemen have gone. There's so many others. There's a gentleman by the name of David Bushbaum who's a city electrician. Drove trucks for a while, and he got the trucking license through FOLA, but then said, I want to be a city electrician. But his foundation was built here. The seeds were planted here at Friends Outside. And so when we think about how far and wide these things go, my foundation and what I've been able to achieve, though burns within me, my foundation was built here. When I teach our case managers at ARC proper documentation, I remember if it's not in the case notes, it didn't happen. Document, document, document. And these were things that I was learning as I came home because I had a great mentor. But more importantly, as I built these things, this mentor, I was able to share. But I had an opportunity that Mary gave me. If you read my bio online, when I speak, I always talk about where I started at. This is where I started at. This is where my heart at. I wish Sarah and them was there too, because it's like a family. So when you think about what this organization can do, how far people go, the impact it has on our community, remember the old saying, when you throw a stone in a pond, the ripple effect goes on forever. So remember those things when we talk about Friends Outside. And I want to thank you, Mary. I want to thank you, Monica, for being there, for giving me the opportunity, for guiding me, for mentoring me, and telling me to be quiet. And thank you all for showing up. And if anyone ever asks about the executive director, eventually I'll leave ARC one day. I'm not sure when, but how did I get there? Tell them that my foundation was built here at Friends Outside.